Story 1. My parents have been paying for my brother's living expenses since he was about 20 years old. He's approaching 50 now. They have 2 houses with mortgages on both, and paid for him to live in one, also covering his food, his dog's food, everything. My brother is not disabled, and my parents were not wealthy. I believe they did this out of guilt for how they handled things when he was a teenager, but that's another long story. For a while, my brother's wife and 2 children lived with him as well. After they moved out, he continued to live in the house, spending his time drinking and smoking marijuana. He hasn't worked since he was in his 20s. When asked about getting a job, he says he's just not that kind of guy. That situation has always annoyed me, but it wasn't my problem until now. I'm quite a bit older than he is, by the way. My mom recently passed away, and my dad immediately told my brother he could no longer afford the second house, and that my brother needed to move out. The timing was unfortunate, and the message was blunt. But I was relieved to see that my brother was finally being pushed to take responsibility for himself. My dad said he would pay for an apartment for my brother. I know that still enables my brother to continue drinking and relying on my dad financially, but the arrangement was an improvement over the previous one. However, they are now looking to buy a cheaper house for my brother to live in. They say they can't find an apartment that will allow his pit bull, and he needs somewhere to grow his marijuana plants. Recently, my dad showed me where he keeps all his important documents, keys, and other essentials for when he passes. I am the executor of his legal estate plan, so I asked to see the trust document. The trust states that his assets are to be distributed evenly 50-50. But when I said I would follow the letter of the law, he laughed at me. He said my brother cannot have any money and that I needed to take care of him. My dad expects me to own the home my brother will live in and to cover the mortgage, utilities, insurance, repairs, and anything else that comes up. My dad explained how my brother will call when he needs money, how the dog food subscription through Chewy is set up for automatic deliveries, and so on. What my dad is describing is something like a special needs trust, which I'm very familiar with because we have one established for my son, who is disabled and truly will not be able to care for himself in the future. My brother, on the other hand, is not disabled. There is no special needs trust set up for him. My dad never asked me if I agreed to act as the executor of such an arrangement, and he will not be leaving enough money to support my brother long term. I do not agree that their setup has been healthy or productive for anyone involved. Sorry, this is so long. Here's my question. When my dad passes away, should I simply distribute the assets 50-50, just as the trust document states? As I write that, I already hear the answer in my head. Yes, of course I should. But the truth is, my brother will likely spend the money recklessly and then have no means to support himself. I'm almost certain he will come to me asking for money eventually, and that thought weighs on me. I keep wondering if there are any creative solutions, something that isn't just cutting him loose, but also doesn't require me to take on a responsibility I never agreed to. My brother is not a bad person, but he has lived his entire adult life in a bubble of financial support that didn't require effort or accountability. Part of me feels guilty for even considering sticking to the legal terms and letting the chips fall where they may. The other part of me knows this situation was created long ago and was never mine to fix. I have responsibilities of my own, especially to my son, whose needs are real and lifelong. Is the answer truly as simple as just following the instructions in the trust? Should I prepare myself emotionally and mentally now to draw that line and hold it? Or is there another way I haven't considered? Any suggestions are welcome. But mostly, I just needed to put this out there and ask, how do you do the right thing when the definition of right feels so tangled? Story 2. I recently had an emergency appendectomy, and recovery has been slow. I had to take time off from my own athletics, but worse, from coaching in the kids' sports program I'm involved with. The experience made me step back and realize I really built my whole identity around being active and healthy, so the hit my physical abilities took as a result of being sick and the healing process has made me feel lost. I've been working to regain the joy I used to experience from exercise, without going, "Oh, you used to be so much faster with that," or "Your technique used to be so much stronger," or "You don't fit in anymore," or whatever else, and just enjoy myself regardless of the level I'm at. But ironically, the anxiety about not being able to do what I used to has made regaining those abilities difficult. It made me self-conscious about exercising in public spaces, but I was starting to finally get over it, as friends convinced me the source of the concerns were all in my head. There's no way to get back to it other than training, so despite the anxiety, I started running again as soon as the doctors approved it. I went to the local track and just did a few slow laps each morning, building up speed every few days, and I've only just been authorized to add some sprints and body weight strength training to the mix. Occasionally, there were other people at the track, but I didn't really notice because I run with headphones on and try to zone out in these lighter sessions. But little did I know my friends were wrong. It was not all in my head, I was being watched, and more than that, I was being judged. My absolute catastrophe-level worst nightmare at this stage of building back my strength and speed. On Friday, I was setting up for practice at the kids' program, and the head coach asked me into his office because a parent had a complaint. A parent I didn't know too well, Karen, was there, and he said she had specific complaints about me. The meeting almost didn't happen because of Karen's initial refusal to put on a mask, required in our facilities for now. But eventually her desire to tell on me for whatever she thought she had on me overrode her freedoms to infect everyone. I was a bit nervous, as anyone is being called to meet with their boss over a complaint. But I figured it was a classic case of, my kid should start more, or, I know my kid tried out as a midfielder, but I want her to switch to defense, that kind of rules don't apply to me thing. But instead, I sit down in the office, and Karen is playing my boss a video of me running on the track that she filmed from afar. It's surrounded by stadium-style risers. I was horrified, both because no one is ever totally used to seeing themselves on video, and because I was just embarrassed about how slow I was. But most importantly because Y was a virtual stranger. I'd met her personally maybe 4 times, ever, filming me while I ran on my own time at a private facility. She then went on to explain that her 8-year-old son, one of the players on my squad, was lapping me in the video and insisting the coaches need to hold themselves to higher athletic standards than the young players if they want to prepare them for college teams. Again, her son is 8. Apparently her son would sometimes be running on the track while her older child was practicing on a nearby field. I never noticed. The kid is still relatively new, and I don't pay much attention to the other people on the track. My boss patiently but firmly explained to Karen that my physical abilities are not the parents' concern, and all personnel are closely managed by the head coaches who understand each unique situation and what's appropriate, and that her son wouldn't be impacted. Karen then went on to say my being out of shape was probably connected to why I'd been taking so much time off lately. Technically, yes, it is because I was in the hospital, and complaining that the personnel changeover isn't good for the kids. My boss again reiterated that the head coaches hadn't changed or taken any time off, and that I was still one of the most skilled in the area I instruct, so this was not her concern. She asked if there was someone else she could speak to, but he explained that he was the owner and founder of this program. So, no, there was not. I knew my boss was intentionally avoiding saying what had happened to me or even alluding to a health issue to protect my privacy. But I figured maybe being transparent with her would show her how ridiculous she was being and keep her tuition dollars in our program during a difficult time for sports clubs. But when I explained, she just turned to the boss and said, "Well, maybe you should furlough her until she's healed and bring on a healthy coach in the meantime, because my son needs someone out there who can keep up with him." My boss respected what I was trying to do, but made clear we weren't going further with that strategy to avoid setting a precedent of sharing coaches' personal circumstances. Telling her why people take time off or what their health status may be is not her concern, because the program manages that and makes appropriate decisions. She kept kicking up a fuss, But the coach finally told her he had to get back out on the field, back to her son and everyone else's kids. She started physically leaving, but continued fussing about how she was not satisfied and would not be recommending us to other parents. Pro tip: not the way to conduct yourself with the people who make recommendations to scouts concerning family culture team interaction. The coach wasn't preparing to leave. Instead, he stopped her in her tracks to tell her if she was found to be surveilling or otherwise harassing any staff members again, she would be permabanned from the program. No games or practices, no team social events, no presence in our buildings, and no clemency. So, that was pretty satisfying. Her son is a good, average kid, and I'm glad the consequences were focused on booting her out rather than limiting his opportunities to have fun playing. So then we went out and had a great, happy, safe practice. This was still a pretty upsetting event for me personally though, and I'll never unsee that discouraging video of me running. But it was ultimately reassuring to know the other staff have my back. Leaving Karen in the dust is just another step on my road to recovery. Story 3. Just for background, I'm a half-black woman who grew up in a ghetto and worked hard through high school to earn a scholarship and full ride through college. I now work a very decent job and make a reasonable amount of money, which I'm not afraid to show off, though I do maintain my ghetto heritage. Naturally, racism is a touchy subject for me. So here I am minding my own business in a local coffee place, answering some emails on my new Samsung Note 10. Day off, so I'm not dressed particularly well. Hoodie, sweatpants, you know the deal. Enter the cast. Entitled mother, generally snooty looking, like she was trying really hard to look wealthy, but nothing she had on was actually valuable, obviously fake jewelry, etc. Entitled kid, maybe 12 or 13, large, positive he had some kind of autism or Asperger's due to his general mannerisms and, well, screeching. I noticed them staring at me. Not a big deal, especially since this is an upper-class area and I'm me with my demeanor. Eventually, they walk over to me and the entitled mother says, "You, where did you get that?" Me, I bought it. How? How do you think? People like you can't afford phones like that. You must have stolen it. At this point, I'm sort of in shock and speechless. She follows up with, "I should report you to the police, but I'm willing to let this go if you hand the phone over to my precious baby son now." Why would I do that? Because you stole it and don't deserve it. You're not getting my phone, witch. At this point, the manager, supervisor, or assertive staff member, I'm not sure, but I'm calling him manager from here, walks over after noticing the situation and tries to calm everyone down. Manager, ma'am, I need you to keep it down. This is a coffee shop. This woman called me a witch after stealing my son's phone. Manager, wait, what? I want a full refund, my phone back, and some compensation. Ma'am, you need to give her the phone back or I'm calling the police. But it's my phone. That's my son's phone, you witch. Ma'am, that's clearly not your phone. I will call the police if you don't give the phone back. At this point, the kid is screeching. I can't really make out what he's saying, but he's reaching for my phone. Having dealt with racism all my life, I began to go off at all three of them, so naturally police were called. The police immediately apprehended me, and only me, and confiscated my phone. They also took the entitled mother, the entitled kid, and manager's statements before taking mine last. All three of them told the cops an exaggerated version of events. At this point, you'd have thought I was some homeless black person who just mugged a 13-year-old if you believed the story they told. I gave them my statement and told them I would refuse to cooperate any further until they checked security footage. The coffee shop refused to let them check since as far as they were concerned, it was clear I was a thief and I'd been apprehended, so what's the point? Eventually, the security footage was checked after several minutes of convincing, and everything became very awkward after that. The police awkwardly apologized and even went out of their way to say we weren't working on racial stereotypes, just responding to the scene that was reported. None of the coffee shop staff actually said anything to me once I was apprehended. Guess I'm not going back there now. The entitled kid never stopped screeching, even as I left after being released from police. The entitled mother seemed completely unfazed by the security footage, continuing to claim that I must have stolen it from someone else because my type can't afford those phones. So that was another day off ruined by entitled to parents and racial profiling. I wish I could say I was surprised by the absolute gall of that woman, but to be honest, I've experienced so many of these situations, nothing surprises me anymore. Story 4. A few years ago, I was a sweet summer child freshly out of college with zero idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was a homeowner after maternal unit moved overseas and gave the house to me, and I decided to work for a house painting company for one summer while I got my metaphorical ducks in a row. The next summer, I was out of the painting business and working as an EMT, which meant sometimes I would have a full day or two off, 24 on 48 off. I noticed my house was in some need of paint touch-ups, so I decided to do them myself. I had brushes, paint, nothing to do, and some beer, so I went at it one Tuesday afternoon. So I'm working on the frame of the front door, dressed in old painter whites and a t-shirt with the sleeves cut off, and I sit down to let the primer dry and have a beer. I'm happily perched on the front step when I notice a "can I speak to your manager" haircut with a face that looks like she just ate 12 lemons staring at me from the sidewalk. My front lawn is decently long and slopes down a hill, but I could see an artery pulsing in her neck from my spot. She had a dog next to her, so I just waved and said, "Cute dog." I guess my words broke the floodgates, and she unleashed upon me a verbal assault of which I understood about 30%. The gist: how dare you drink on the job on this nice property? You don't deserve to sit there and waste the hard-earned money of the well-educated person that owns this place. While I'm pondering this, she's still spewing frothing condescension at me, which culminated in uneducated, lazy, menial, freeloading, immigrant drunks like you are what is wrong with this country. Well, I'm white. Like really white, blonde hair, green eyes, born and raised in the good old US of A, specifically in this house. Perhaps I look like some sort of insidious immigrant from far away, so I stand up and make my way down to her, but not before cracking open another beer. She's positively quivering with anger and indignation. Her dog is pulling at the leash to say hi to me, and so I bend down to say hello back when she says, "Well, what do you have to say for yourself?" I raise myself to my full 6'2" height, which towers over her little 5'0" self. She doesn't back down, and the following conversation ensues. Me: "Hello, ma'am. What seems to be the problem?" She scoffs. You: "Sitting there wasting the homeowner's money so you can get paid to be a lazy drunk." Oh, I'm being paid? Seems odd. I didn't feel the need to pay myself for this, but I suppose that could be fun to try. Her gears turning. Pay yourself? Don't make me laugh. Some deadbeat like you couldn't afford this house. You need an education for a real job. I'm wondering what her education fixation is all about, but not caring all that much. I just want to entertain her conversation enough to really get her mad. Maybe her head will explode. Me: "Well, I didn't buy this house. My mother did. But she left it to me when she moved overseas after I graduated from college." Her, smirking: "Oh, did you go to local community college, known for not being that great? Only someone working as a painter would go there. Actually, if you look at my shirt, you'll see it says Ivy League School Athletics, which is where I attended school and played a sport. I am in good shape because of that, so I figured I would keep that up by working on improving my own home while having a few beers to cool off in this heat. Did you attend community college? Because if so, I can see how you might not be able to understand that. Disclaimer: nothing wrong with that community college. It's where I got my EMT license. Just wanted to watch her boil, and oh boy did she. Her eyes widen bigger than I thought possible, and her mouth starts working like elderly folks' do when they've lost a lot of teeth, lots of lip twisting. This culminates in her reading her ugly head back and spitting on the front of my shirt. You probably stole that from someone, you ungrateful, useless jerk. Okay, wow, not sure what I'm ungrateful for, and you germs. So I tell her that it has been fun, but I'm going to continue working and turn to walk back up the lawn. She grabs the back of my shirt and attempts to pull me backwards, doesn't work, so I spin around and smack her hand off me. She flops like a Premier League soccer player, flinging herself all over my lawn, howling like she's been shot. She's let go of the dog's leash, so he comes over to me for pets, happy as a clam. Her yodeling has brought some neighbors out of their homes, including my cool next-door ones. They come over and I give them the story, and ask for their phone to call the cops. Mine was inside charging. They laugh and hand it over. I let the cops know that some kukino is gyrating loudly on my lawn. Could they please come remove her? I return to my work. My cool neighbors probably have started making popcorn. A little while later, I hear the cops arrive. Crazy is still singing her messed up opera and starts screaming at the cops a story of a belligerently drunk squatter whose painting said site of squatting, who chased her with a baseball bat and broke her arm in multiple places. Her talons point to me, so I come down and tell the cops the whole story. They crack up. Apparently they know the nutcase by name, and so they tell her to call her husband to get the dog again and cuff her for trespassing and disorderly conduct. Dog hung out with me until the husband, apologizing profusely, came and got him. He also informed me that they are in divorce proceedings, so that may have made her crazier than usual. Never saw the lady again, thank God, but have developed a neighborly friendship with her ex and the pup. All's well that ends well. Story 5. I'm coming here seeking advice again because, at this point, it feels like a case of old age with my dad, and I honestly feel like talking to a brick wall might be more productive than trying to reason with him sometimes. Okay, here's the actual story. First, a bit of context. I'm 27, and my dad is in his late 50s. This happened a few days ago. Recently, I've not been feeling well, and things have been difficult for me personally. Financial struggles, difficulty losing weight, and just a general lack of motivation to get through the day. I've been feeling a bit down, but nothing caused by anyone close to me, especially not my dad. That's important to keep in mind for future context. Lately, my dad has been trying to spend almost every third day with me doing things like swimming, playing table tennis, going to concerts, and just generally wanting to spend time with me non-stop. On top of that, he guilt trips me whenever he feels like I don't spend enough time with him or don't call or reach out. And when it gets to him, he tends to have yelling outbursts over it. The issue is that I'm a huge introvert. Social interactions are extremely draining, and I'm also autistic. I generally have a very hard time confronting people, especially my dad, because it feels like walking on eggshells around him, which I'll explain a bit more later. I do enjoy spending time with him, and I do keep in contact with him. It's just that I'm literally the only person he has in the world. He has no friends to reach out to and no other living family. I'm the last person left in his life. I understand how that must feel for him. But because I'm the last person he has, he clings to me harder the moment I try to just be myself. The interaction that led to the meltdown. Recently, on an early Monday morning, my dad offered to drive me to see a dietitian in the next town over. I can't drive, I don't have a license. I tried to get one, and while I did fine on the road, I failed the test and lost interest, since I don't really have a need to drive often. That day, I was dealing with horrible stomach cramps. I told my dad about my health issue as he was entering, and instead of responding to that, he brought up a conversation he'd had earlier, an incident that had annoyed him. He was telling me again about how he had tried to enjoy a job or activity at the park, but was constantly interrupted by people trying to get his attention. He had either ignored them or didn't have time for them, and it seemed to have really upset him. Even though I felt sick to my stomach, I calmly responded, "These are the kinds of things that are better to just let go. Letting them live rent-free in your head won't do you any good, it'll only stress you out." Unfortunately, I didn't even manage to finish my sentence before my dad exploded in anger. Here's a summary of what he told me. "You know what? How about you start showing me some real respect? Lately, you've been cold to me and acting like you're not yourself. You don't call me, you barely talk to me, and lately, you've just been acting like a spoiled brat. I'm your father, for goodness sake. If my dad ever heard me talk like that, he would have punished me badly for such an attitude. I take care of you, buy you things, give you money when you need it, and this is how you treat me. If I'm such a problem to you, maybe you should ask your mom for help instead, because I'm at my limit with you. This overwhelming overreaction came completely out of nowhere. It's not the first time it's happened, but it definitely shocked me into silence. I spent the rest of the ride sitting beside him, not saying much, just giving short answers to avoid provoking another outburst. Not only were some of the things he said inaccurate, but they also felt like he was projecting or comparing himself to others, creating drama over something as simple as a comment on a story he'd already told me before. Mostly, I was just really scared during the drive. I avoided talking to him and just wanted to get through the trip. I also noticed that whenever my dad gets upset with me, he tends to drive a little more aggressively, nothing reckless, but just enough to feel unsafe. After the appointment, I called my mom to ask for advice. She wanted to help, but she told me that this was something I had to resolve between him and me. She apologized that I had to go through that experience. A couple of days later, my dad and I had a phone call, and this is roughly how it went. Phone conversation. Me, hello? Dad, hey, son. How are you doing? Me, I'm fine. Dad, do you want to come with me to a free jazz concert in town? Me, no, Dad, sorry. I can't today, I've got a lot to handle, and I have to water Mom's tomato plants since she's not home. Dad, yeah, I see. Is everything all right? You're not just avoiding me, right? Me, no, but I'm still shaken up by how you yelled at me in the car, and now I don't know what to think. Dad, well, I get that, but you were really grumpy from the start. You've been acting like you don't want to spend time with me anymore, like you're trying to avoid me or something. Me, no, Dad, it's not that. It's just that things have been difficult lately, and I haven't felt like myself. But I'm still shocked by how you reacted in the car. Dad, I've been really stressed out lately trying to get the new car. All the work pressure, it just got to me. I snapped because my own son seemed bitter toward me. Me, that's understandable, but how was I supposed to know any of that? You don't scream at people for no reason, especially not at your own family. Dad, I know I messed up, but you know I care about you. It's just that you seem like you don't want to spend time with me and have been very distant. Me, that's because trying to talk to you is exhausting. Every time I share a thought or opinion, you blow up. You take every bit of criticism as a personal attack. I never yell at you, I never raise my voice, but you still treat me like I'm attacking you just for speaking. That's not okay. If something's bothering you, you could talk to me about it like an adult instead of having an outburst like a child. I admit I was getting pretty emotional at that point. Dad, okay, I know, but I'm not the worst dad out there, right? I do all these things to help you, and all I ever ask for is to spend some time together. Me? Yes, but it feels like you don't actually listen to me. I try to talk to you like a normal person, but you still treat me like a child. You act like being a father is some kind of obligation rather than something meaningful. Dad? Well, do you want me to be your friend or your dad? Me, I don't want you to be a stereotype. I want you to be yourself. You once told me that even if I went to prison, you'd bail me out because that's a parent's duty to protect their children. That's not healthy thinking, it's extreme. And don't forget, you once told me, I could die for all you cared. Dad, you can't say it like that. You're putting words in my mouth and taking what I said out of context. Look, I'm sorry I said those things. I know I've been a bad influence at times. I just want the best for you. He then went into a whole speech, comparing himself to other people and repeatedly saying he was sorry, even though he didn't really seem to understand what he did wrong. Dad, but hey, we talked about it now, so it's all good, right? Me, no, Dad, this isn't something we can just talk over the phone and call it settled. This can't be a one-sided conversation. We need to have a proper face-to-face discussion. This has been an issue for a long time, and until recently, you were the only one who didn't see it as a problem. You yelled at me for something I didn't do. Dad, but we talked it out, right? Now it's fine. Me, okay. Then tell me what's my perspective on this whole situation. Dad, well, I should be sorry for getting upset with you for no reason, and me, yes, but also for not realizing that you can't just yell at me out of nowhere. Maybe I've changed, but you've changed too. These sudden mood swings aren't okay. You still don't seem to understand how hurtful and confusing that behavior is for me. Dad, hey, listen, I'm sorry. I know I messed up. But you only get one father. I'd really appreciate it if you'd join me for dinner this week. That's all I ask. Me, I'll let you know if I can. Honestly, I know my dad isn't completely entitled, but he's starting to act like it as he gets older. I just can't handle this dynamic without hurting him, and I've been trying my best to be patient. But he gets really mean for no clear reason when he's overstressed, and I end up being the target because he has no one else. What hurts most is that he doesn't seem to know how to just be himself. Instead, he performs this exaggerated role of the father figure who has to act a certain way, as if being a parent is a script with strict rules instead of a relationship with mutual respect. What I want is simple. Space. I just want him to be more understanding. Sometimes I need time alone, not because I dislike him, but because I need to recharge and be myself. It's not rejection, it's just how I process the world. No more yelling, we're both adults. I've never raised my voice at anyone, not even a stranger. If he can't respect that, I'll choose to only speak with him in a strictly professional, minimal contact way going forward. Openness. I'll do my part to be more open with him, but he needs to do the same. He can't excuse his outbursts with "something happened recently" and expect me to just guess what he's going through. I'm not a mind reader, I need him to communicate, not explode. Mutual respect. We need to respect each other's needs. I respect him as a father who raised and helped me. But he can't weaponize that in arguments, acting like I owe him my obedience. I didn't choose to be born, he chose to have a child. If he wants respect, he has to give it as well. I try to show him that I care by doing things for him and going out of my way to help, but if he continues to treat me like a little kid or a burden, then I may have to reconsider how much effort I'm putting into this relationship. What do you all think? Please give me advice on how I should approach this. I don't want my dad to turn into someone who just yells whenever things don't go his way. I care about him deeply and want him to treat me better, just as I try to go out of my way to make him happy. Of course, if I did something wrong, I'm willing to accept constructive feedback, but please be fair. In the end, I just want what's best for both of us. Thank you in advance.